Peace, family. It's good to be back. Let's get to work. Today, we want to talk about the concept of a race war. And we want to have a sober conversation about what's going on in America at the time of the recording of this video. The death of Neil Wilson, the death of Meshawn Cooper, who was murdered by a white supremacist in Kansas, and so many other deaths. It seems as if though every other day, some white nationalist-minded individual is taking the life of a black person in America. And brothers and sisters, if we don't respond accordingly, if we don't respond appropriately, then we will find ourselves going down into the dustbin of history as literal cowards who were too afraid to defend our own people, our own community, and particularly our own mothers, daughters, and our elderly. Now let's talk about the concept of a race war. Because every time a white supremacist kills a black person, the media asks the question, is America headed for a race war? Another term for race war is the term ethnic conflict. And the definition of an ethnic conflict as given to us by Webster says that it is a conflict between two or more contending ethnic groups. And while the source of the conflict may be political, socioeconomic, or religious, the individuals in conflict must expressly fight for their ethnic group's position within society. I want you to hear this next sentence and be very, very clear on what I'm about to say. Ethnic conflict does not necessarily have to be violent. Ethnic conflict, it doesn't have to be violent. Now, when we put it in those terms, we start looking at the concept of a race war through clearer eyes or clearer lenses. The race war in education has been alive and well for 400 plus years. And guess what, Black America? You've always been on the losing end. Right now, when you look at 12th grade students across the length and breadth of America, 87% of 12th grade students have a higher reading proficiency level than all black students. That means that we are losing the race war when it comes to education. Let's look at economics. Right now, for every $100 that a white family brings into their household, black families only bring in $5.04 to every $100 that white families bring in. What does that mean? That means that there's a race war in economics in this country, and we as a people have been on the losing end. Let's talk about politics. We believed that the electing of a black president would be the call to freedom for us all, that our chains would be loosened and that we would lose our chains on the road to political freedom here in America if we elected a black president. But guess what? Here we are on the other side of Barack Obama's administration, and we are in worse condition than we were before he became the president. As a matter of fact, while we had a black president and a black attorney general, we weren't able to get one conviction of a white police officer for murdering unarmed black men and women in America. That says that there is a race war on the political front in America, and we as black people have traditionally been on the losing end. Let's not even talk about the justice system. Right now, we make up about 12 to 13% of the population of this country, but we make up over 50% of the jail population. That in and of itself says that when it comes to the race war in the criminal justice system, black people have been on the losing end. So the question has to be asked, is this really a war? Because in a war, you have two opposing sides fighting for their position. And the problem with us is that we have not been fighting back the way that we should be. How can we fight back if we are too busy or so busy fighting one another? So when we think about this race war and we ask the question, is America headed for a race war? The answer is clear. The race war started before I was born. The race war started the moment our ancestors set the soles of their feet on the sands of the banks in Jamestown, Virginia. When we stepped off the first slave ship, the race war began. But now the war is becoming more physical. It's not about whether or not a race war has begun. We are already in it. We are 10 toes in it. We are knee deep in it. And there is no way to get out of it except for that we fight our way out of it. So I wanted to start off with that little piece just so we could get our minds right, get our heads together. If you are of any other mindset than one that predicates that we are at war, then you have put yourself and your family in a vulnerable position. Now, when we look at the attack on our young sister, Nia Wilson, who was riding the train home in Oakland, California, and was viciously attacked in a cowardly way, she and her sister, by a white supremacist, then we are looking at our reality. Nia Wilson's murder is a picture of our reality. When we look at the death of Meshawn Cooper, who was found in a trash can in the home of a self-professed white supremacist in Kansas, we're looking at our reality. When we look at the death of Marquise McLaughlin, who in Florida was pulling up into a convenience store. He walked into the convenience store with his son, and when he came out, he saw his child's mother arguing with a white man, and this white man being very aggressive and very vicious toward her. So he jumped in between them and pushed the white man down. He got up, fired a shot, and murdered him in front of his own son. Brothers and sisters, there are predators on the prowl, not just for black life, but in particular, they're targeting black women. And any group of men who are too cowardly to do what is necessary to defend their wives, their daughters, and their mothers, these are men that do not deserve to live. So black men, we're being tested. We're being put under trial. Because when Nia Wilson can be murdered right in front of our faces, leaving us helpless, understand that our failure to protect the Nia Wilsons of our community leaves blood on our hands. And again, while we're alive, the history is being written. Either we go down in history as men, or we go down in history as cowards. So there's a group called the Proud Boys. And these group of white supremacists, they have their roots in the United States. They're over in Canada, and they're also in the UK. It's really just a modern day version of the skinheads. And their objective or their modus operandi, their MO, is to go into black neighborhoods and post up at places like convenience stores. And once they've spotted a potential victim, they go in and they do what white people do. They start trouble. And once they provoke a young brother to a fist fight, they pull out a weapon and they murder the young brother the same way they did to Marquise McGlockton, kill him in cold blood, and use laws like the Stand Your Ground law as a defense. The white man who murdered Marquise McGlockton in front of his family went home free using the Stand Your Ground law in Florida. This is a calculated thing that they're doing. And if we aren't awakened, if we aren't on alert 24/7, 365, that in 2018 your black skin still makes you a target, then you will be next. So we must be very, very careful of people like the Proud Boys. And we must send a message and make some examples that they name their group after the term pride. But there's a Bible verse that says that pride goeth before destruction. And so we have to fortify our communities as such to where we send a message that when the Proud Boys come to try to express their pride over here, they can expect utter destruction. Now, this is serious talk that we're talking on this program today. But if I use this platform to be politically correct or to lie to you or to insinuate that our situation in this country is anything except dire, then I will be punished for not speaking the truth when I have been taught the truth. So, as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we are taught something that I think needs to be the mantra of black people today. And it says that you should never be the aggressor, but fight with those who fight with you. Now, for those of you who don't want to subscribe to that philosophy, let's bring it home. I quote the words of one of the great philosophers of our time, the brother Tupac Amaru Shakur. And in his monumental work, a song called Hail Mary, he starts the song off with words that I think we need to live by today. He says, I ain't a killer, but don't push me. I ain't a killer, but don't push me. That has to be the attitude of black America today. And right now, we are being pushed, and it's time for us to push back. Now, when I say fortify our communities, the term fortify means to strengthen a place with defensive works so as to protect against attack. Fortify your communities. Fortify your homes. Fortify your property. Fortify your families. Fortify your businesses. Any and everything that is ours must be ready. We must be ready to defend it with our lives. Why? Because the attack is coming. So how do we fortify our communities? We fortify our communities by simply following what we call rules of engagement in a time of war. Now, I want to talk about a few of these rules of engagement. And in our talks, I would like for you to just kind of set your mind to rid yourself of the childish things that were important on yesterday. LeBron James being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers, that was important yesterday, but today that is a childish thing. The beef going on between celebrities like 50 Cent and Floyd Mayweather, that was important to you on yesterday, but today that is a childish thing. And all of the other silliness that distracts us while the enemy tries to destroy us, we have to put those things away and we have to focus on what matters. And the thing that matters in this day and time is the survival of the black nation, the protection of our women and girls, the protection of the peace of our elders, and sending a message to people like the Proud Boys that black blood is not cheap. They will not understand us until they begin to pay a price for taking our lives. They will not believe that black lives matter until we start making examples. Number one, the first rule of engagement is do not fear. Do not fear. Our words in this broadcast is in no way an attempt to instill fear in you. First of all, what do we have to fear? We've suffered hell, death, and destruction in this country for 463 years with no let up. They've already done everything to us that could possibly be done to a people. What do we have to be afraid of? The only thing we have to lose is our chains. And if one of us has to die in order for millions of us to go free, then that one life is worth the loss. Don't talk to me about freedom if you're not ready to die. Don't talk to us about justice if you're not ready to die. Don't talk about an equality that you're not ready to put your life on the line for. So the first thing we have to get rid of is our fear of white people. Because it is fear that will cause you to make a critical mistake. It is fear that will cause you to run from a white supremacist instead of standing up and fighting. If you run, he's just going to shoot you in the back. You guaranteed to die. But if you stand and fight, then you give yourself a chance to live and a chance to be the victor in this hour. So you must first fix your mind not to be afraid of any damn thing. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. We fear none but God. So if a white supremacist comes to you and tries to harm you or your family, you give him what he came for. See, our problem is when they come, we treat them like they came to argue. We treat them like they came to debate. We treat them like they came to exercise their constitutional right to protest. No, they came to kill. And the law of self-defense says that anyone who threatens your life, you have a right to defend your life. That is the law of the universe. That's your human right. But you cannot defend nothing, not even your own mama, if you are afraid. The second rule of engagement is we must call for a nationwide ceasefire among gangs, street organizations, rival hoods, rival organizations. We have to call for a ceasefire. So all the OGs who still have influence in the streets, we must go from neighborhood to neighborhood. And we must alert the young warriors that we've given birth to in our communities, that we are under attack from an outside enemy. And as a people, we cannot be victorious while fighting what Minister Farrakhan teaches us is a two-front war. I can't defend myself against the white supremacists, but at the same time have to defend myself against my own brother or sister. Those of you who have guns in our community, when we say put down your guns, we're saying stop killing one another. Why? Because 99.9% of the time, a gun that comes into the black community, if it's used to kill anyone, it's used to kill one of your own. It is time for a ceasefire when it comes to the fratricidal conflict in our community. We cannot fight them and fight one another at the same time. Any community that has to fight a war on two fronts is not a fortified community. So we must stand together as a united front. We must be at least as intelligent as the ant. When you step your foot into an ant bed, the ant is intelligent enough to know that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. So you don't receive just one ant bite, you receive several. Why? Because they are intelligent enough to come together when they are under attack. So in the name of Neil Wilson, we must put down the guns and fortify our communities. Another rule of engagement is that in times of war, the strongest members of a nation or a community band together to protect the weaker members, the most vulnerable members of that community. The most vulnerable members of our community are black women, our children, our elders. And if we as black men don't settle our differences and come together to protect them, then we are worthy of death. So we must protect our sisters at all cost. How do we protect them? We protect them the same way you protect your jewelry. You protect them the same way you protect that piece of crap car that you love, your Rolls Royce, your Mercedes Benz, your old school that you put your rims on. It's a damn shame that you have some black men who see their cars as more valuable than the sisters in their community. You don't just leave your car out on the street with the keys left in it. You don't just lay your piece and chain, your jewelry on the sidewalk. You protect it. You put it away. You put an alarm system around those things that you believe to be valuable. So we must have patrols in our community. And the patrol in your neighborhood, his first job must be the protection of black women, black children, and our elderly. There's no such thing as a young girl walking to the store at midnight by herself. We can't allow that, brother. Let's watch over our sisters and protect them as best we can. And when you see somebody roaming through your neighborhood that looks quote unquote suspicious, see, I can go right now to River Oaks, which is a rich white neighborhood here in Houston. And all I got to do is walk less than 2 blocks and somebody's going to pull me over and ask the question, can I help you? Do you need directions? That's their way of, through code language, saying you don't belong here. What are you doing here? When you see suspicious people in your neighborhood, and I'm talking about white people, just walking through, then we must have those who patrol our neighborhoods to ask them questions like, can I help you? The same way they question us when we're in theirs. We got to fortify our communities. We must secure all churches. We must secure all synagogues. Well, we don't really have black synagogues, but y'all know what I'm saying. All houses of worship must be secured. In our mosques in the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that we should have a search procedure at the door, and we do that pretty much without fail. Anytime you have anything going on where there's a large body of black people present, there must be some type of search procedure, some type of metal detectorship. There must be some type of security there, because the way these cowards think is what they'll do is they'll find a place like I'm not even going to say the name of an event or a convention, because I don't want to give any ideas, but they're going to start targeting large bodies of black people who frequent certain places, and they'll target you in places where your defenses are down. See, when you're drinking, your defenses are down. When you're smoking, your defenses are down. We gotta fortify our events and our places of worship. I'm gonna move swiftly. Open no packages that come to your home unexpectedly. I don't care if it has your name on it. If it's not something that you are expecting from a credible source, open nothing, okay? Because like the white boy did in Austin, Texas, they'll start sending packages to your home, and in those packages will be deadly agents and things of that nature to take your life. Break routines. Break routines. That means you have to learn more than one way to get to your place of business, to get to your place of residence. And don't any of you think that you are so unimportant that you won't become a target. But break routines. Stop eating at the same restaurant all the time. If they know that you frequent a certain restaurant twice a week, it won't be long before these white supremacists will come into a black neighborhood, get a job in one of these fast food joints, and just start lacing the food with poisonous substances that kill you over time. Don't travel to and fro from home and work or wherever else you travel. Break routines. Teach your children to do the same thing. If your home is attacked, do you have an escape route? What type of surveillance have you put in your home? It's necessary nowadays because you don't know where they're coming from. Nia Wilson was simply trying to get home on public transportation and ended up losing her life. So don't be so predictable. Don't always be the one who people know are going to go to the party. I remember back in the day when I was involved in street things, if you will, and I got into an altercation with a rival group and it went bad for them. Well, the next day, a price was put on my head. And I'll call it a price, but it really wasn't a price because there was no money involved. But people were out to kill me, and these were very serious people. And I remember talking to one of my brothers about it, and he said, "Brother, it's simple." He said, "Just move like somebody trying to kill you." And that's basically what I'm saying to us today. Don't be afraid and move at peace, but move like somebody trying to kill you, And last but not least, brothers and sisters, be mindful of how you use social media. Stop going live on social media when you ain't saying nothing. Stop being so predictable in your use of social media. If somebody wanted to do you harm because of the color of your skin, ask yourself the question, if all they have to do is follow you on social media in order to catch you in a compromising position, then you must be mindful of the way you use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all of these other forms of communication. We must use social media as a platform to fortify our communities and to protect our families. Make sure that you follow the people in your neighborhood on social media, so that if a suspicious truck is found frequenting your neighborhood, you all can communicate with one another quickly using the same medium of communication that we too often use for irresponsible purposes. So be mindful of the way you use the tool of social media, because the white supremacists are now using social media as a way to track black people and a way to kill black people. So again, this video is not designed to make you afraid. If anything, this video is designed to make you awake, and that you should not be afraid, and that we should come together as a solid wall in the spirit of our sister, Nia Wilson. So remember, we have nothing to lose except our chains. And we don't have to sit around waiting to ask the question, what will we do if a race war starts? Brothers and sisters, it started a long time ago. And we must be prepared if we are to survive and succeed. Peace.